good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Caught cup, hitting the cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Kadagi to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local and national Native news and events, and as you know, Haley, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
You're right, Dega. This portion of the show is supported by Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Support honest Native news from Natives themselves. Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon.
I hear there are a couple really cool people in that Native Roots, too. Oh, hey, speaking of good people, we have Dr. Stately with us. It's Monday, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm old or getting old, but it seems like it's been a long time since I talked to you, Dr. Stately. Dr. Stately's the CEO of Native American Community Clinic here in Minneapolis in the Twin Cities, and he's an idol of many, including me. It's great to see you, Dr. Stately.
You're funny. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Hasn't been that long. I think we talked last week, didn't we?
Well, I think I'm getting that. What's that called? Sometimers. Sometimes I remember, and sometimes I forget.
Yeah, old-timers.
So how you feeling?
I'm doing well. I was thinking the whole time change thing is kind of getting like I'm not happy that I'm walking out of here in the dark right now in my office.
Mm-hmm.
So, there was that change. And then I was a little bit discombobbled because I think like there were some things I like automatically, change, which is on your phone backdates, or automatically goes forward or backward on daylight savings time or the end of daylight savings time. But what doesn't change is your alarm settings automatically, which I forgot to do, which means I was like waking up earlier than I should have. So,
your alarm
anyway.
settings don't change with it?
No, automatically your clock does, but like you have to actually go in and manually change your alarm settings, which I guess intuitively I knew that, but just forgot to do because I was busy doing other things. So yeah.
Yeah, Haley, and telephones, we used to have those. They were hooked to the wall, and there's all these things that you've probably never experienced as a Gen Zer.
I have seen the telephones on the wall. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, so, on the on Sunday when you could have technically slept in an extra hour because you get an extra hour anyway, like my alarm still went off at like 6 a.m. or something like that. Ridiculous anyway.
Our friend from Vig Guitars said she got a lot of work done because she got that extra hour in. So I was just woke up confused for a while.
That's every day for you, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. But
confused. Yeah. Oh, I met that lady from Big Guitar. I forget how I met her. Did I meet her with you? I think I met her with you, right? At not last year, but the year before at the state fair.
Yeah,
I was having a conversation with you and her outside of your little your stand. Not your little stand. It was quite actually a very, very impressive stand.
Thank you. And Wendy set that all up. I had nothing to do with it, so that's why it was impressive.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, yeah, she was a lovely lady, the Big Guitar lady.
Yeah, I got FOMO because she won tickets on our show for, what's the name of the play again, Haley? That's Wes Studi's in?
For our people.
For the people. And she won tickets from Native Roots Radio, and then she met Wes Studi and invited him to her store, and he was there for 3 hours.
Oh, wow. Nice. Is he like a musical man?
Yeah, she knew from a movie that he was in that he played guitar very well, and he played it in this movie. So she said, I think he was surprised that anyone saw that movie, and he came down there to play some guitar.
Yeah, Angie Big. That's very cool. Angie was actually on the show, and she talked about it for a little bit, so we appreciate
That's
that.
cool. Did you get to see the play eventually? Yeah.
I did at opening night.
Oh, of course you did.
Oh, that's right. Haley did too. Yeah. Haley, and Wendy did. We won tickets from Native Roots Radio.
Oh, wow. I wonder how that happened. Yeah, anyway, we won't talk about that. That's like a sore subject in our community, I think. Anyway.
Winning tickets or?
Yeah, no, like when you win the tickets that you yourself sponsor and.
No, I was just kidding. We ran ads and we got free tickets, and I'm an elder. You get free tickets anyways.
I know you get. I didn't know that when I signed up and got my tickets. I paid $60 for a really nice seat, 3 seats away, and then like anyway, yeah, it was a whole thing.
Yeah, now I know why your butt hurt. That's fine, not because we are giving out tickets.
Well, yeah. Anyway, so I saw it Saturday. My sister and. Yeah, it was nice. I really liked it. There was a lovely Guthrie patron sitting in front of me. This non-Indigenous man with a very large head that blocked my view most of the time. Yeah, and I was really struggling with should I do the whole tap tap tap? Hey brother, could you just scooch in your seat a little bit so I can see the stage? But I didn't do that. I just,
Jeez.
Sounds like you'll have to go again, Dr. Stately.
I might, yeah. I might have to go. I gave the seats way in the back to my relatives, and but yeah. Anyway, it was a great show. I laughed a lot. It was really fun.
And then
what I loved was the dig on West Studi when they're like, oh. He was in Dances with Wolves, don't you know? And then they all made fun of him.
Well, it was funny too that they talked about, of course, Powwow Grounds and Bob Wright's and Maria's. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, I was a little offended that they mentioned Maria's and Aldi, but they didn't say anything about my clinic. But then somebody in my family, one of my family members, were like, "Well, was the story about your clinic?" I was like, "Hold up here."
Yeah. No, you should have said it should have been. Should have been. And then us St. Paulers.
Yeah.
Well, they talked about the walking colon, didn't they?
Oh, yes, they did.
Yeah, which
that was
is
Dr.
always at
Stevens.
NACC every summer. The walking colon.
I think you're known for it. That's why we started laughing.
I was like, I've been through that. I walked through the colon.
I was hoping there would be a T-shirt that I could wear with that walking colon, me walking through. That would be awesome.
We have to work on that. We have a relationship with the Cancer Center Network, so maybe we'll do that. But the other thing I loved about it was the dueling teepee and the downward shunka.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was done well, and there was a lot of inside jokes, and there was a lot of laughter. It was full when we went.
Yeah.
And that's going through November 12th at the Guthrie, too.
Yep. So I think next Saturday is the last day, right? So yeah, Sunday. That's exciting. It was actually a really one of the things I took away from that. It was here we have a really nice piece of work that is, West Studios know, he's a guy, he's a big name. He's a big Hollywood Indian name, and here he is on Franklin Avenue appearing, nightly in that play and sometimes a couple times a day on the Saturday and Sunday matinees. And, it was written by local people. It has a local sort of feel and story, and it just was really beautiful to see. It was really it was fun. It was fun to be in there, get the jokes, listen to us poke fun at ourselves, those kinds of things, and just laughter is medicine. So it was amazing. It was just really amazing. I had a great night.
Absolutely. And then also too, now West Studi is the first Native American to win Academy Award. Now that we knocked Buffy out of the running, Buffy St. Marie, so. Where?
Oh,
Yeah.
some people call her Bluffy.
Good one. I'm getting T-shirts made. That's good. Hey, we'll be right back with Dr. Stately. You're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake.
Stay with us. Back to school season is here. And while this is an exciting time for parents, kids, and educators, let's not forget how far we've come in our battle against COVID-19. We're in a better place, but COVID-19 is still here, and we need to continue to help protect our communities. With the flurry of new schedules and classrooms, let's not overlook the fundamentals of staying safe. Wash your hands regularly and watch for any symptoms like fever, chills, a cough, or shortness of breath. Should you or someone you know have COVID-19 symptoms, stay home and get tested. Find more tips on continuing to be safe at health.state.mn.us. Let's have this back-to-school season be a time of renewed commitment to our collective health and brighter future for our Native communities. Again, find more tips on continuing to be safe at health.state.mn.us.
This message is brought to you in partnership with the Minnesota Department of Health.
Hi, I'm Claudia with MinSure, Minnesota's official health insurance marketplace. With MinSure, you can compare health plans from multiple companies and get free help from a trusted expert. Whatever health plan you choose with MinSure, it's guaranteed to cover essential benefits, so you can get the care you need. See if you qualify for discounts, available only through MinSure. If you need quality, comprehensive health insurance, get started now at minsure.org.
This is Leonard Peltier. I am in Coleman 1 U.S. Penitentiary, and I'm listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Native American Community Clinic on Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis, honoring health and tradition.
Yes, they do, and that's a great tagline as always. Hey, we're here with Dr. Stately, CEO of Native American Community Clinic here in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, and we're just talking, we're just free spitballing here, some arts and crafts here, and what I wanted to ask you if you had seen... you've seen Killers of the Flower Moon, and what your thoughts are.
I think the week before, so I saw it last Saturday. So yeah, I had some mixed emotions about that film. So I've seen lots of discussion online and a few other places about, some folks who sort of like are, I don't know, I guess what the word would be. I guess maybe in some ways taking umbrage with like the production, like wanting the more authentic voice of the Osage people to be more present in that film. And I understand that completely, but then I also think about like this is like it's the artistic interpretation of like essentially a nonfiction book, right? That documents some specific things that happen to a particular community and in some ways to a particular family. That demonstrates like the horrific nature of, colonization and white supremacy and all of its, most sort of wicked fashion. So I had a range of emotion during the film. Like I found myself like feeling a little bit compassion for, the husband. What was his name again? Something.
Ernest
Burkhart.
Yep.
That's the tremendous acting skills of Mr. Leonardo DiCaprio. that he can like make somebody so horrifically ugly, feel a little bit human, and you feel a little bit like they took some artistic license, I think, in the interpretation of that, because that's not really the feeling you get from reading the book, right? It's a nonfiction book that's very fact based. We don't know a whole lot of discussion or information about the nature of Molly and Ernest's relationship, but presumably it was not one that was based on tremendous deep love and affection, right? I don't know how you could love somebody deeply and then treat them the way that he treated her and her family. Except that I do know that, the insidiousness of racism and white supremacy is very, very dark and, deeply, pathologic. So
yeah,
I suppose it's possible that he loved her and cared about her, and also found it completely consistent with his morality at the time to do the things that he did to her family and her loved ones, right? So that was, for me, that was like one of the most disturbing parts of the entire thing. I was just like, my first feeling was like, get the F out of here.
Right.
Right. So
it's funny too, the first 5 minutes of the movie, there was a lot of trauma going on for people watching that, about watching all these natives getting killed right away.
Yeah. And it was I read that book when I was at home, sheltered in place, and I think it was right before I got sick with COVID, I think, yeah. And I read it in literally like 3 nights. I stayed up until all hours of the night after my kids went to sleep, and I slept in, I think one night I read it until like literally the crack of dawn. And because I couldn't put it down, it was like so compelling. And I had heard these stories before. I had read some of the narrative of this story is actually part of Leslie Marmon Sokol's book too, or not Leslie Marmon Sokol's book. What's her name? Mean Spirit. She wrote Mean Spirit. She talks about I can't remember the name of the author off the top of my head right now, and I'm a little tired. But so I had kind of known some of the history about the Osage oil, legacy and all of the things that happened during that period of time, but I never really knew it to the detail that was present in that nonfiction novel. Right, the guy really sort of did his homework and investigated did some deep investigation. So reading the book for me was like a page turner. It was also a traumatic experience. I was like, it really did like pull on all of my early experience as a kid, growing up in the 60s and early 70s in South Dakota and Minnesota during, Wounded Knee and the beginning, the civil rights movement, and and all these things all sort of kind of came to my the forefront of my mind while I was reading that book, and they became even more colorful during the watching of the movie. So.
The book, the last 4 chapters kind of talks about what's happened to the Osage now and what in the backstory. The original character, I know Robert De Niro's 80 years old, but the original Hale character was 50 in the book. And he was released from prison from his buddies like 10 years later. And so was Ernest. And so that is always, and then poor Molly, who loved her husband until she died, even though she divorced and remarried, she believed him. She died at 44.
Yeah, she was young, very young.
Yeah.
And for me, it was also like, I work in the medical field, right? And so like that whole stuff around like diabetes and their medicine and they're adding stuff to the medicine to make her sick. And I was just like, I'm watching this and I'm like, well, this like this is like deeply embedded in like the work I do, which is like, like trying to, get Indigenous people to trust, coming in to see a doctor, like that, like they're like, this is why we are so besought with such poor health outcomes, because like we don't have a health system that we trust, many of us, right? And so we are reluctant to do things like go and seek help because we don't know what's going to happen to us. We don't know how we might be harmed. And that's to me, that's the real damaging legacy of that whole part of that film too, is like just really, like just the loss of trust and in the compassion and the commitment that people in trusted roles that are supposed to be caretakers and take care of us and protect and serve and do all those things, and when they violate those things, when they violate that responsibility and that trust, how damaging it is to just those individuals, their families, their communities, their ancestors, and their and then all of their progeny that come after them. It's a real great film that demonstrates, the damaging effect of colonization and white supremacy and the impact that it has on people, on an entire community, if not an entire nation of people.
That's a really good insight, and I didn't think of that because I guess I don't have problems going to the doctor, but many of our relatives do. When COVID came up, the untrusting of the vaccines from a lot of our relatives, and so that's that's a really good point.
Yeah, like we really struggled with that in the early part of the pandemic. Like, how are we going to get our relatives to trust that this is going to happen, and that this is going to be something that will help them. And I had to be in a lot of those conversations at policy level and with the state and other decision makers and policymakers about how do you build trust with a community that you have historically damaged over a long period of time.
Right. Well, that goes back to not only medical, and we're going to have to take a break here real quick, but voting, census, all those things. There's a Ho-Chunk, there's places where Ho-Chunk are from, and then there's places where Ho-Chunk are from that we don't talk about. And that's, I'm sure Ojibwe and Lakota, Dakota too have those places where we can hide when we need to. And so those are things that is a legacy for Native Americans, and totally understand, especially with what you just brought up, Dr. Stately. Yeah.
Those are survival strategies, right? So
exactly. Hey, we're here with Dr. Stately, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. We're going to bribe him to come on for another segment here. I see you have my hoodie on. How did you come to my house and take my hoodie? That's a good one. Oh, wow.
I don't know. When you were asleep, talk about trust.
Hey, we'll be right back. This is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Are you thinking about college? Consider checking out Minnesota private colleges. These 18 nonprofit institutions keep the focus on students with small classes and professors who will get to know you. You'll find students from all backgrounds, and no two colleges are alike. And when it comes to cost, they're more affordable than you think. Find the college that's right for you at mnprivatecolleges.org/possible. mnprivatecolleges.org/possible.
We are your relatives.
We are your relations.
Brothers,
sisters,
sons,
daughters.
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
This is Angela Warner for Warner Stellian, and I don't know about you, but I am not the most patient person. Waiting for something once I've decided on it is really hard. So why wait for Black Friday to score up to 50% off appliances? Warner Stellian is guaranteeing Black Friday prices now, so you can finally replace that almost broken dishwasher with free installation on top brands. You can upgrade to that bigger fridge and faster stove and take 2 years to pay with your Warner Stellian card. Shop now at warnerstellian.com.
It's no secret that medical care costs are soaring, with nursing home and skilled nursing care costs being some of the highest. You don't have to deplete your savings in order to receive long-term care. At Schroman Law, we work with families to develop and implement strategic planning for medical assistance for long-term care, for assisted living, nursing home care, or home-based care. Contact us today to schedule a free consultation at schromenlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950, here to tell you about the exterior construction company I trust, Snap Construction. If your home was hit with the most recent storms, trust the most well-reviewed exterior construction company, Snap Construction, for a free home inspection.
This is Ryan, owner of Snap Construction. There are a lot of great construction companies in town. My advice is to take your time and do your research. Make sure they are locally owned and that they guarantee their craftsmanship for life. Also, you want to find a company that's been in business for at least 10 years. You want to work with a company that's going to be there long after the work is done. Snap Construction has handled thousands of claims, and we'll help you through the process.
Don't go with the out-of-town, fly-by-night contractor. Most storm damage goes missed by the untrained eye. Trust Snap Construction for your free storm damage evaluation. For your free storm damage evaluation, call Snap Construction at 612-333-SNAP or visit them online at snapconstruction.com. That's 612-333-SNAP or snapconstruction.com.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Cloudy tonight with a low of 39, then a chance of rain on Tuesday with a high of 46. Scotch Mama's Hot Barbecue offers the huge taste of selections like baby back ribs and pulled pork sandwiches out of a little place. Scotch Mama's is located just a block west of I-35W off of West Diamond Lake Road in South Minneapolis. Visit their website at scotchamamas.com.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by J.S. Bean Factory off Randolph Avenue in St. Paul, native-owned, bringing us the best coffee that keeps us awake. And you can also order their roasts at JustStevesBeanFactory.com.
Hey, that's a good call and a good video. Hey, we're here with Dr. Stately, CEO of Native American Community Clinic here in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, and one of our listeners is saying you guys are deep tonight. So hey, Dr. Stately is deep tonight, so we appreciate that. Hey, I gotta just tell you what I did this weekend. This last Saturday, I was at the adoptee powwow. And it's always very powerful for me being an adoptee. And there was one young lady who came from Denver, and she was there with her sister that she met for the very first time. And those are the kind of things that make work and things that we do well worth it. And it was very inspirational and emotional this weekend.
Wow, nice. Is that that's the Washipi or the powwow that Sandy Whitehawk and her group put together?
Yep, absolutely. And it was at Harding High School this year, seeing that the Indian Center's
my
being
nephew
worked on.
sang there, he said.
I saw that. You know, I got to give you a compliment too. The young twins, Robert and his brother, those guys are sounding really good. And I do mean that.
It's funny, like we were talking about that over the weekend, and somebody was saying like that Robert and Chusky, they're singing all the time. Like, I think somebody said that their dad was like, yeah, like they're in the bathroom and they're singing, and they're like, over here they're singing all the time. And it's like, well, that's probably a good sign. Those songs, they're either singing those songs and perfecting their singing with them, or they're making new songs, or they're writing songs in their head. It's like they're meant to be singers. It's obvious. It's in their everyday. I'm super proud of them. I've had their drum, my nephew Ruben and Chusky and Junior's drum, show up to a number of our events that we've done. Not just at NACC, but because we use a lot of different drums. But NACC is engaged in this birthing justice work, and we had them be the drum group to open up all of those events for us and close some of those events. And I had them, be the drummers at a couple of the wedding ceremonies that I've done over the last couple of years. They're just really remarkable young men. I would think that of them if they weren't my nephews. They're just each one of them are. They know their language. They've learned Dakota and Lakota, and they learned those songs. They practice ceremony. They're really quite remarkable men. I'm really proud to be their uncle.
Yeah, I got to say, they were in my last class, my last homeroom at Harding when I was teaching, and they were a lot of fun to get to know each other. And I knew their sister was in my class for 4 years too, and I got to give a quick shout out because I think they got the bug from Barry Hand. I think he mentored them in the very, very beginning, but they've definitely run with it the last year or so.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that is just like, I don't think that any of the sort of like ideas that I get from about work and programming that I do here at NACC, or that I sort of kind of initiate or push to initiate at the clinic. Over the last 5 years, we've really built out our traditional healing program. We started with one elder and our spiritual care provider, Donna LaChapelle, who recently actually not passed away, but she, she retired a couple of weeks ago, and she was moving up to Hinckley, right, to move into elder housing that she finally qualified for. And, I love her so much. She was the first person that started our work in cultural and spiritual healing. But like one of the things that has really profoundly impacted me, watching Ruben and these young boys and some of the other young men in our community, like watching them sort of invigorate their relationship with the language, their relationship with the songs and the ceremonies. And I was like, somebody came up to me a few months ago, like about this time a year ago, and said, hey, we don't really have a whole lot of programming for Native men. Our men are hurting in our community, and we don't have a lot of resources for them to start doing some of the healing work that they need to do. And, I think there's a gap there. And so it really kind of compelled me to think through, and even my own relationship with my own kids and myself and my own journey. I thought, how hard was it for me to find a path to understand my role and my responsibility as an Indigenous man, what it meant to be a modern day warrior. How am I supposed to show up in the world? What is my responsibilities and my roles? How do I cut my own path and learn how to do that when I don't have a lot of, at that time in my life, I didn't have a lot of role models about how to do that. And what I saw happening with my nephews and saw happening with a lot of young Native men in their late teens, early 20s is, how much that drum and that hochaka, that spiritual center sort of kind of pulled them in and drew them to it and gave them a strong sense of purpose. And, you go across Indigenous communities all over the world, the drum is a central figure to every Indigenous community. It's like the heartbeat of it's the first thing we hear is, as spiritual beings when we come to this earth, that heartbeat of our mother. And so it's a unifying sort of like a principle, and it's also a unifying sort of like a manifestation of like a value that we have. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's one of the reasons why we're so drawn to it and so tied to it. So we launched a young warrior camp last year, all organized around some of the drum work. We got our first drum. We did some drum making workshops and stick making workshops, and spent a lot of time, cultivating and supporting the young Native men in the community to learn their songs and learn their responsibility of taking care of a drum. And that's really spiraled off and became this much bigger initiative that we're doing in the clinic and trying to help, encourage men to step forward and to take on those traditional roles and responsibilities that we had as being warriors, not warriors who fight, but warriors who like protect women, children, elders, our language, our songs, our culture, our medicines. These are the things that Indigenous Ogichida and Akichita do, right? That's our responsibilities. So it's been a really beautiful thing to watch them do that, and it inspired me to do some things around that work in the clinic.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you and I try to, especially when I see people come back to the drum, so to speak, I just tell them how great it is to see them and how they're missed and how they need to, keep coming back and those things too, because we have young warriors too that have gone astray in a sense and try to come back and join community again. And I know you do in your organization, and I think it's really important that we welcome them back in the best way we can.
Yeah, it's a unique principle and value of Indigenous people, I think, to sort of like recognize and understand that everybody in the circle is important. Everybody belongs, and when you come back into that circle, you're always welcomed. That's what I love about that adoption powwow. It's like you can have been gone your entire life from the moment you were born till the day you arrive at that powwow, and like people will welcome you and hold you and bring you in. The other thing I love about that powwow is that's where I learned that I was an elder at that powwow.
Tell us that story.
I was at the Indian Center, and it was my first time going to the powwow. I brought my sons because I adopted my sons. I brought my sons to that powwow, and really, adoption is a big part of my family history, and so I was at that powwow, and they took a dinner break, and Sandy Whitehawk was up there, and she's like emceeing, and she's talking, directing things, and she says, "Okay, we're gonna have a dinner break now, and and all you young ones, I want you to come up and grab a plate and get a dish and find an elder in the arena that that you can bring a dish to, and that's how we do things here." So, right. I was talking to a colleague on the bench and the bleachers, and so pretty soon this young little girl walks up to me, and I could see like out of the corner of my eye something approached me. So I turned, and she was holding out this plate of food, which was, and I was like, and I looked at her, I was like, "What are you doing?" And she goes, "I'm feeding the elders."
Yeah.
And I wasn't really quite prepared for that role, and I also wasn't really practicing a lot of humility and humbleness. So not in my finest fashion. I was like, go find somebody with gray hair.
Yeah. Well, I get the opposite effect because, I'm 62 going on 63, and they don't want to feed me because I look so young.
Yeah, well, there's right. That. They just have to look at your face. But no, that was 10 years ago, and I was 50, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to take on that role yet. And I was like, anyway, yeah. So, but I took the plate, and just like my friend was like, take the plate.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know it was 10 years ago. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. That's
so,
crazy.
So I've been an elder now for 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, all I cared about is like turning 55 and I could go to Goodwill on that certain day and get 25% off.
I always forget that. Thanks for the reminder.
Well, Dr. Stately, it's up to you if you want to come back. We haven't really talked any COVID or anything. If you want to jump back in or do you got to get going here, it's up to you.
I have to probably get going and take my kids to hockey practice here soon. So they got one.
Well, we appreciate you stopping in and giving us this big insight, and especially all the work you do in the community. And you'll always be a baby elder to me.
Oh, thank you. Well, I appreciate that. Have a good night.
Great to see you. Hey, right on. Hi, Joanie. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and up next, Haley's going to tell us her life story. No, just kidding. Yep. We'll be right back after this short break.
Stay with us. Be a vaccinative. As the fall season continues, new COVID-19 variants threaten the health of not just you, but our elders as well. These new variants might even evade previous vaccines. That's why it's important to stay up to date. The newly authorized vaccines target current variants effectively and are FDA approved for ages 6 months and older. But there is an important note. These are the first COVID vaccines to be commercialized, which means there may be costs associated with them. Speak with your health insurer about your coverage before scheduling an appointment to avoid a surprise bill. For those without health insurance, help is available. Ask your health clinic about options or visit vaccines.gov for free locations. Getting vaccinated protects you from severe disease. Don't put yourself or elders at risk. So be a vaccinative and protect our community. You can visit vaccines.gov for free vaccine locations.
This message is brought to you in partnership with the Minnesota Department of Health. Unveil the captivating world of native photography at the Minneapolis Institute of Art. Their new exhibit, In Our Hands, Native Photography 1890 to Now, turns the camera around and puts native photographers in control, featuring hundreds of photographs captured by generations of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and Native Americans. You'll view the world through their lens, revealing the beauty and complexity of Indigenous heritage. Don't miss this incredible experience. Visit In Our Hands at the Minneapolis Institute of Art now through January 14th. For more info, visit artsmia.org.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
How? I was just following the video there. Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. We got the last segment here, and Haley and I are going to be talking a little bit about some things, and we had an opportunity to talk to an elder today that will be playing on Thursday. George McCauley talked about his experience with Killers of the Flower Moon as an extra and the whole process, and it was really good to catch up to him. But, Haley, I wanted to talk a little bit about, we're related, and he knows Maya Gaga, which was my grandma and your great-grandma, and it's always cool to see an elder in the community that knows our family and knows the great work that she did over the years, and our uncles, our Degas, who played softball with them for many years, and a tight community here in St. Paul at one time, too.
Right. Yeah, no, it was very cool. And, yeah, that was my first time talking with George McCauley today, and it's really great. George is an enrolled member in, now I'm going to blank on it, but Omaha, Nebraska, right?
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah, but he was extra in Killers of the Flower Moon, so we got to chat with him today about his experience working on set as a Native actor, and we really enjoyed that. But what I didn't know is that George knew Great-Grandma Helen, and that was really, really cool, and he took the time to kind of write something up and say, I remember your grandma and your uncles, and we played softball, and I really enjoyed being around them. And just hearing stories like that is always warms my heart. And I know you brought up Barry Hand earlier before the break, Robert, but yeah, Barry, I think when I met Barry too, he had really nice things to say about Great-Grandma Helen or your grandma and our uncles and everyone. Yeah, it's really amazing how small the community is and kind of how everyone knows everyone. But yeah, it was really cool to be able to chat with him about his experience and just kind of touching back on the movie. So I actually went and saw Killers of the Flower Moon this past weekend. I believe it was Friday. But one thing I really, really did like about it, or I guess just one part that stuck out to me, was there was a scene in there where Molly is talking about the rainstorm. And she says to Ernest, who Leonardo DiCaprio plays, his character, she says, stay calm and let's be quiet and let's listen to the power and the healing of this rain and the storm. And I really, really liked that scene. And I guess kind of earlier in the show, we were talking too with Dr. Stately just about the triggers that maybe come up for Native people who are watching this movie. And there's a lot of trauma and a lot of, white supremacism. And yeah, I mean, it was a hard movie for me to watch personally, I will say. But towards the end, I did stick around for the credits, and they actually played an audio of a thunderstorm.
Yeah, good call.
And I was able to sit there. It was only me in the theater who stuck around for the credits. And yeah, it was a good time for me to emotionally sit there and reflect on what I had just seen for the past 3 hours.
3.5 hours. Yeah, definitely. And if you remember, she also asked Ernest, the Molly character asked Ernest, and this is when they first met, to open the window.
Yeah, he was going to shut it because it had started raining, and she said, no, leave that open.
Yeah, there's a lot of powerful stuff in there, and I think until you have the capacity to have like Reservation Dogs, where you have the whole cast and the crew and the directors and the writers Native, you're going to have issues of the story being told. And that's going to be an issue, and I always joke, and I said this already a couple times today, is, there was a lot of good out of Dancing with the Wolves too. But I still kind of mock it and call it Dancing with Kevin Costner because of the white savior aspect of the movie. If you haven't seen that movie in a while, Haley, you should watch it again, because I did, and I was pretty amazed, and it's also a 3-hour movie too.
No, is that one 3 hours? It's so funny you should say that, because you refer to that movie quite a bit, and I have actually never seen it, but I believe like the past night, I think it was 2 nights ago, maybe I started watching it, and I watch a little bit each night before I fall asleep. And
Wes Studi's in it for sure. Yeah. Graham Greene, who's in Reservation Dogs, and
he was in the Twilight Saga movies too.
Right, and also I got to tell you, we had, before you came aboard to Native Roots Radio, we had one of the characters in Reservation Dogs that played. I'm trying to think whose father he played. Oh, but he was in the last show of Reservation Dogs too. I saw him, and he was one of the 3 little boys in Dancing with the Wolves that were playing. I don't know if you got to that part, but there was 3 boys that were playing around, and
they took the horse, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I do know what you're talking about.
So small community, but really strong community, and everybody knowing everybody, and it was fun too at the adoption powwow. Sharice David's mom was there, and she was adopted, and so I got to hang out with her a little bit. And she's Ho Chunk, and there was quite a few Ho-Chunks there, which was really cool. But, we're all related in certain ways, and I don't know if I even want to, talk about this. I know we've touched about it, but I finally watched a documentary from the Canadian Broadcast System on YouTube about Buffy St. Marie, and that was out like 4 or 5 days ago, and it was put on YouTube, and it's very interesting and very sad because she did do a lot of good, but the bottom line is all of a sudden in 1961 she started claiming being Native American out of the clear blue, and it's not good. Pretendians aren't good. They take away services and things that real Native Americans could use. And it was funny. And George's interview was going to be on Thursday. He talked about there was over 1,000 people there when he first got there 2 hours before. I guess auditioning as an extra, and he said there was a lot of white people there that were auditioning as natives.
Right.
And I was like,
which is weird.
Well, it isn't weird if you look at the movie. There's a great documentary that came out like around 2009, and it's called Real Indians, and it's REEL Indians, and a lot of great people on there that were interviewed talked about the movies and Indians and how most of the Indians that you'd see were Italian or not real Indian, and also the Pan-Indian, where people were the only reason why they were wearing headbands and feathers is to keep their wigs on, and that isn't how the natives of the Southwest, for instance, what they wore. So people, that's where people all these years would get the wrong thing about natives, like we're dinosaurs and we're not here, and all these things that we're not human or humanized. And
right. And yeah, well, just before we end the show, I know we just got a minute left here, but I quickly want to say we had Dr. Stately on, president and first officer of Native American Community Clinic, and the end of the year is wrapping up here. So if you do not have health insurance yet, I just want to shout out MNsure. They help you connect with your local experts to guide you through that process. So every plan through MNsure offers essential health benefits, and you can actually learn more about that at mnsure.org. Very, very helpful.
Yeah, and they're very helpful. Get in there early so people can help you. I know that's a big deal from a lot of friends and young ones I know that have signed up to MNsure, because it's the law, and also you need insurance, and you never know what's going to happen. Good up. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and we're still here. We are the seventh generation.
And free Leonard Peltier now.
Connections Radio Show is all about tapping into our hardwired hunger to connect. We examine meaningful connections to ourselves, our community, and the world around us by opening the door to innovative